Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Everybody can
Morning.
hear us good?
Yep.
I'll call the meeting to order. I guess the first thing on the agenda is the adoption of the agenda. I'll need a mover and a second for the motion. Bill moved it.
I'll second it.
Jim seconded. All in favor?
Yes.
Disclosure of pecuniary interest. Does any of the board members have anything they'd like to declare?
Nope.
Seeing none. Go on to the minutes. Everyone's had a copy of the minutes, so if there's no questions there, I'll need a mover and a second to adopt the minutes.
I'll move it.
Okay, Ryan, seconder.
Yeah.
Jim, all in favor? Carried. Business arising from the minutes, anything we need to talk about there? I don't see anything, so I guess we're on to staff reports. Lee, is that you?
Yeah, through the chair, I don't believe that we're going to cover the arena revitalization under new business. So unless Adam has anything, I don't believe we have any staff reports at this time. Ken.
Okay, thank you. So we're on to the important part, I guess, the new business skating club update, Jim.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First of all, reaching out to Adam, the skating club would like to thank Adam and his crew for excellent job this season. Things run smooth and you guys are more than happy to accommodate whatever we need done, I guess, by the sounds of it. So thank you. Ice time for next year, they've got that sorted out. So just the verbal right now. Mondays and Wednesdays, 5 to 8. Okay. AGM is scheduled for May the 15th at the Scouts Hall. And there was an email sent out in regards to the intro to hockey. Let me see if I can find that for us. Email was sent out to the intro to hockey. Copied Nigel, Kevin, Mary Jo. We're in the process of setting up a meeting to review the intro to hockey pilot project and would like dates suggested by your group that might work. Please provide me with the 4 possible dates. Close to end of March. And also the date AGM, I mentioned that. So if these individuals could get back to us, confirm a meeting, have a review on how things went, pros and cons, and possibly run this project again if it's been felt successful in the past. It seems to be coming to me that things are okay. So I guess we'll find out at a future date. And the final thing is still a tremendous amount of noise in the arena from kids that are not on the ice. I don't know how to control that. Parents keeping the kids under control. It's still a disruption to the skaters on the ice being taught by the coaches. And I did have one lady come to me who brought her grandson to the skating. And with the running around, she was run into by one of the skaters, did not fall to the ground. But she said that there's just a lot of commotion. And the young boy did come back and apologize for running into her. So she thought that was okay as far as the young man being polite. But I don't know how to address this other than parents taking responsibility for the kids and keeping things under control. As I mentioned in the past, it's still a classroom structure out there. They're being taught. People are spending money, so we kind of may be respectful to take care of that situation. In the report.
Thanks, Jim. I don't know if anybody wants to mention anything or talk about anything Jim mentioned there. Yes, kids in the arena is something we're gonna have to live with for a long time, and probably will. Different world, I think, than when we grew up, but nonetheless, let's go on to minor hockey. Terry?
Just for a minor hockey update, we've got all of our playoffs games are set for round robin play. So roughly we're looking, local league will be done somewhere around March 23rd. For the rep people, we're probably looking, if they make it to the out of the round robin into the playoff series round, we're looking March 18th to somewhere around the 26th, 27th. For those guys, they play a little 3-game series, 2 games home, 1 away, or vice versa, depends how they finish. Then they go off to OMHAs, which are April 4, 5, and 6, I believe. So we just kind of have to wait and see how these guys kind of finish and pan out. But most of our teams will be done probably somewhere around March 23rd. And that's all I got for now for an update.
Okay, thanks, Terry. Any questions for Terry? There's not, so I guess we're on to probably the important one on the agenda, arena revitalization. Lee, are you gonna run with that?
Yep, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I guess what we'll do is, we'll put up, first of all, I'd like to thank the committee. They've put in a lot of work on this to this point, and I think we've kind of got things narrowed down. And also thanks to Terry, who was able to, we've used the electronic version of the drawings of the arena from when the renovations were done back in 2010. And he was able to mark those up to kind of show us what we have, what we're looking at. So I think what we'll do here is we'll start with, Jen, are you able to put option 1 up on the screen? So these, we have 4 options here for the board to review. And yesterday we met with Spreet's head structural engineer at the arena to review the ideas within these 4 options. So really what we were looking for yesterday from him was, you know, kind of 3 categories. A, is it feasible and relatively straightforward? B, is it feasible but, you know, complicated and probably very expensive? Or C, is it not feasible at all? So does everybody have it in front of them that we can get started, or you guys waiting for? Does everybody have it in front of them? Okay. Okay, so option 1, so all 4 of the options, as you'll see in the bottom left-hand corner, have new proposed change rooms. So the idea is where the entrance is off of the south side of the building, which would be now considered the main entrance to the arena. That entrance would be abandoned for a new entrance on the front of the building on the west side facing Graham Road. So the area now where there is a small change room, the ticket room, the hallway leading into the arena, and the front office, that area would be converted over into 2 new change rooms with a shared washroom in the middle. So that was the first option that we looked at with Spreet, and because the walls running east-west in the building are the load-bearing walls, and the walls running north-south are not, that is fairly straightforward. So that is possible, and that is a fairly straightforward project that we could do that. So you'll see as across all 4 options that the proposed 2 new change rooms in here transcend all 4 options. And that, you know, getting back to what the application was to Kraft Hockeyville originally, that was one of the big push, or one of the big needs as part of that application was more dressing rooms. So I think that we've addressed that with the addition of these 2 new change rooms. So as the other part of option 1 here is obviously if we're abandoning that south entrance door, we have to create a new entrance off the front of the building. Now we don't, I think we've all agreed on the committee that we don't want that entrance to be directly into the warm room, you know, for many reasons. And so the option 1 would see a new addition on the front of the building, a one-story addition, which would be simply just more or less a vestibule. So it would be an entranceway. The sidewalk would come down the face of the building, parallel with Graham Street, and then go into the new entrance. And then there would be more or less where the door is there now, that would be made wider to accommodate, obviously, users coming in and out with hockey bags and whatever else have you. But that would be strictly just an entrance. There would be nothing else out there. So that's option one. Can we go to option two? So you'll see with option two keeps those washrooms. Or sorry, not washrooms, but the dressing rooms with the shared washroom there. In option two, there was it was discussed that the that front entrance be made wider, so it would cover pretty much 2/3 of the face of the arena, and that the entrance would still be there, similar to what is in option one, but the warm room would be opened up to make the warm room larger and on the face of the building. So that where it says addition warm room area added. The engineer felt that with the construction of the building and the fact that that front wall is a load bearing wall, that opening the entire face of the warm room, opening that up to create that larger area out into that new part is not feasible. You'll see the other note that shows up here in option two is in regards to the current washrooms. So it says washroom upgrade reconfiguration may be required or possible relocation to the canteen area, which was one of the things that the committee had discussed. The washrooms where they are, the engineer believes that there is enough room within those two washrooms, if those washrooms were gutted and reconfigured, that they could be made accessible. It would likely mean having to widen the doors going into the washroom slightly. And that would all be part of the actual design process, right? With the accessibility standards being worked into this. Obviously, the minute we touch anything to do with the building, we're gonna have to bring those washrooms up to accessible standards anyways. So those washrooms could be upgraded. It would need reconfiguration, but they could be kept in their current location. So now we'll go to option three. If anybody has any questions, feel free to jump in here as we go, but we can kind of circle back. Okay, yep. And I think that showed up in option three too, didn't it? Yeah, so we'll go to option three and we can discuss that. So in option three, this was the same, the two new dressing rooms. Where the two washrooms are currently, there was an idea of moving those washrooms to a new location, whether it be into a new addition on the front or down into the canteen area, and converting that washroom space back into warm room. Because the walls in that washroom area, both the north-south walls and that east-west wall, are load-bearing walls for the office space up above. That's not possible. We wouldn't gain anything we wouldn't be able to open that up the only way we could open that up and make that into warm room space would be to remove that second story, to remove that office and whatnot up above there. So the engineer felt for what you're gonna gain, you're gonna lose that by losing all that area upstairs. Um, the second part to this, was the addition across the face of the building, would be larger. It would include an entranceway, it would include washroom area up front, and it would include a new office. Obviously, with any of these options that we're utilizing that current office space to create that new change room. We would be looking probably to try and include an office somewhere into the new design, so that new addition out the front would include the new office space as well. But it would leave that canteen area in the northwest corner of where the warm room is. The other thing that shows up in both these, option 2 and option 3, the committee had a discussion around possibly adding a second level in the warm room. I know if any of you that have been around to other arenas in the area, some have the mezzanine level above the warm room with windows that view out onto the ice surface. So the engineer actually spent a fair bit of time crawling up in ladders, looking in the ceiling, looking at different options, different things there. What he would say about that second level is it's feasible. It would be expensive, and obviously he's not in a position to put numbers against it. The areas that he did caution with this option, number one, there would have to be some investigation work done, because certainly the minute you put that additional load, so you would have joists running east-west from the front wall to the interior wall that leads out to the ice surface. You would, in order to span that distance, there would have to be posts, there would have to be a beam down the center of the warm room, and there would have to be posts every so far to support that beam. You couldn't clear span that. If they put in something heavy enough to do that as a clear span from one side to the other, it's about 23 feet. They would have to be big enough that you would lose a lot of headroom, and we don't have a lot there to begin with between the upstairs and the downstairs. So there would have to be posts located every so far in order to carry a beam. The second part of that is there would have to be some investigation work done as far as the footings. So there would have to be holes, like they would have to put holes in the floor in the warm room. His biggest concern would be the footing on that interior wall. The minute you go and put that extra load, that extra floor with all that extra weight, and you tie it into that wall, is the soil conditions underneath and it are suitable, and is the footing sized appropriately underneath to carry that extra load? So it's not just a matter of what you see above ground, it would be a matter of doing investigative work below ground. We've looked, we don't have the original blueprints for the arena when it was built. It's quite possible that those were lost in the fire back when the town hall burnt years ago. You know, that would have helped give us some sense of maybe what's underneath there, but like the engineer said, that would still all have to be confirmed visually. And then if they weren't sized appropriately, that gets into a lot of extra work below grade before you even start thinking about what you're gonna do above grade. So yes, it is possible, but it would be a costly venture to put a second floor into that warm room. So then we'll go to option 4. So option 4, we've left the washroom, or sorry, the change rooms. We're gonna renovate the washrooms to make them fully accessible. On the front of the building, there would be an entrance, like a vestibule, coming in, as well as we would put a new office as part of that expansion out the front. So there would be an entrance and an office off the front. And then we had the engineer look at the walls between the warm room and the canteen. So option 4 would be removing the canteen and creating and adding that canteen space to the warm room area. So the block wall with the window in it going from the warm room into the canteen could be removed. And obviously the wall behind the grill and whatnot that separates that small back piece is just there's no structural to that wall. So that area where the canteen is could be opened up. One of those 2 doors leading out to the ice surface. So there's the door in the corner of the current warm room and there's the door coming out of the canteen. One of those doors could be closed in and then there could be a couple of windows added kind of in that along the wall in that area, so that would increase viewing opportunity from that area out to the ice surface. You wouldn't go right down into the corner with the windows because obviously that starts to get farther away from the ice surface, but there's room in there for a couple of windows similar to what is there currently. Just kind of in that area where the warm room and the canteen meet. So and then, I mean, obviously, there could be variations of these 4 options. I think as a committee, we all agreed that the change rooms are a good idea. If there is the room to upgrade the washrooms and make them fully accessible where they are, Adam and I feel that's probably the best use of that space rather than moving them, relocating them to another area. And then, you know, when you get into warm room space, is the canteen, you know, that brings up the question about whether or not we want to continue to have the canteen concession area in the building. And then as far as the addition on the front, we certainly, if we're going to go this route, we're going to need some form of an addition to house it at minimum a front entrance. And so with losing that office space in that front corner, you know, to extend that addition another 15 feet or 20 feet to create that office space, along with that, there wouldn't be a lot of extra costs associated with that. So I guess I'll stop there right now and we can take some questions and then that might bring up some further discussion.
Okay, questions? Jim, you hit the button
Yeah.
first. Go ahead.
Good job, Lee. Looks quite interesting. In regards to the last part you mentioned, maybe extending the upstairs office out. That would be a cost to remove the stairway and all the rest of it, wouldn't it? Or would you leave the stairway going up in that office and go right to left?
No, so we wouldn't be the new office on the front would be on the main
Oh, the
floor.
main floor, okay.
So there would be a 1-story addition off the front, off the face of the arena facing Graham Road.
Okay,
That addition would house a new entrance. And it would also house an office
okay,
on the front of the building. So that space above the washrooms where currently you go up the stairs.
Yep.
And go in, that space upstairs would remain.
okay. Is there any thought of a new offices actually being on the second level, say maybe at the opposite end over top of the canteen? And you'd have a full clear span of main floor for everything else.
With the way I mean, I suppose it would be possible with the way the roof, I don't know if you've been in the office upstairs there, right? The outside edge of that office is.
Yeah.
Because of the way you lose that height.
Yep.
For head height as it comes
Yep.
across there. I mean, certainly it's possible. That wasn't something that came up in our discussions. Essentially, you would have the same. You would have the same thing if you were to build something above the where the canteen is now. Create a second level up there, you would have something very similar. To that, where the current office is.
Any other questions?
Sure, if I may, through the chair. Lee and committee, thank you so much for all of this hard work, putting this all together. A couple thoughts. So I'm curious to know what the committee feels is the right direction of these options. And I'm also curious to know from your perspective, do you believe that the cenotaph will have to be moved to accommodate any of these options?
So through the chair to Counselor Denning, I think, I'll answer your second question first. No, we don't feel that the cenotaph has to be touched or relocated in order to accommodate these options. The proposed changes or the proposed additions to the front of the arena are relatively small in the grand scheme of things. Like, we're not proposing, there's no need to have a front entrance that's 20 feet by 30 feet, right? That's all you're doing is bringing people in. And even if we add an office to the north end of that, we don't feel that that cenotaph is going to be in the way. The first question about what the committee feels, I think just based on the time, so as a committee we met and we kind of came up with all these options. Like I mentioned, Terry was good enough to kind of to lay these all out for us so that we could see, and that we had this in order to speak to the engineers. So, you know, we were able to say, this is what we're thinking, is this possible or not? The fact that we just met with the engineer yesterday at the arena, I don't feel that the committee hasn't really had, we haven't met as a committee since all this information's come. So, you know, I would be hesitant to say that the committee has a certain direction at this point right now. We wanted to narrow it down enough that we're not just looking at 100 different things, but we wanted to have a few options on the table. So, and I think the idea behind today's exercise is to let the board members see what we've been working on, take questions and take maybe suggestions from like Jim's idea of the office space above where the canteen is currently located. You know, if there's something that one of the board members thinks of that maybe we as a committee haven't, take those ideas and then meet again as a committee and then bring something back. I would like to see at the next, at our next board meeting, there will be a report to go ahead with a tender for, or a request for proposal for architectural and engineering. At this point, once we kind of narrow the focus and decide what it is that we want, the next part of this is going to be actually getting an architect involved, getting an engineer involved to come up with some formal plans. And then from those formal plans, that will give us an idea of cost. Because at this stage right now, it's still pretty early to say, you know, we would be kind of shooting in the dark if we were to put a price on this right now. Certainly whatever we can do within the footprint of the current building is going to save us money. Am I missing anything, Adam, from our conversation with Spreeth yesterday?
No, I believe you explained it pretty well. The only, like, the sizes of the front entryway on the drawings here are not to scale by any means. So if you think that area that's considered entryway is a little large, yeah. Right, if you can picture the outside of the arena, what we're kind of, the area where we're trying to keep this building addition is within those two big trees out front. Kind of centered to the main part of the building, but not encroaching on the cenotaph whatsoever. Bill, there should be plenty of distance over to that area that we won't even come close to that.
Thank you. Thank you very much for all of that. Appreciate it.
I have a couple of quick questions as well. In all the proposals, we're losing an access door for emergency purposes out the arena, and I don't know all the rules about all that, but I don't know if you've had time to talk about that.
No, so that's one of the things, that we have, there's ways of doing it, obviously. If it has to be kept, it could be kept, it could be incorporated into that design. But those are the things that once you get an architect involved that knows all the ins and outs of that, and, possibly the building department, may be able to help answer that as well, then that would have to be incorporated into the new design.
And I guess my other thought, and again, thanks for doing all this work. I echo what Councillor Denning said. It's nice to have a look at this and have, you put a lot of thought in it. I guess the other question I have is the washrooms. I'm looking at option 4 as an example. Would it be better to extend that a little bit and put a unisex handicap washroom in there on the new part, and then we wouldn't have to get into bringing the old ones up to standard?
Certainly that's a possibility. I guess we would have to kind of weigh there would be less costs associated if we're not touching the current washrooms. But at the same time, if we're having to add space in a new addition, for a new washroom, there's gonna be extra costs associated with that too. So I guess we could look at both of those options and kind of weigh, if we're gonna spend X number of dollars, do we spend it on a third unisex washroom, which is new, that's fully accessible? Or do we spend it on the 2 existing washrooms to make them both fully accessible? And yeah. But it's certainly, like all of these ideas, that was kind of the purpose of today, was to just, and certainly even after the meeting today, if one of the board members has an idea or thinks of something, please feel free to contact Adam or I and pass that along. And the other thing I'll say with this project as a whole, I think looking at the different options, certainly there's, there are some that would be far more expensive than others. Like adding in components such as that second level. It's not that it's impossible, it's just that it would cost a lot of money. I think that picking something that is financially feasible, but yet something that we can actually get done in the next few years, versus picking something that is possible, but it may have to wait for 6 or 7 years. Like there'd have to be, financial commitments from both municipalities. There would have to be fundraising. There would have to be, obviously, we would continue to look for grants to help fund, even an option such as option 4, where it's just a modest addition on the front of the building and changing those 2 new change rooms around, or creating those 2 new change rooms, and then, bringing the building up to accessibility standards. We're not even halfway there yet as far as what we have money and what that would cost. I feel that's probably $1 million project in itself. And, then to add in those other things that obviously are gonna probably double the cost of that. My feeling is we look at something that achieves what the group set out when they applied for the Craft Hockey Bill money, but something that can be done, because the longer it waits, it's just going to get more expensive. A job that's going to cost us $1 million 2 years from now is going to cost us, $1.5 million 7 years from now. So I guess that's just my thoughts on that.
Go ahead, Jim.
question in regards to the current dressing rooms, do each of the dressing rooms now have a shower facility in them?
Yes, yes, and dressing room one is an accessible dressing room.
So by adding two new additional dressing rooms, you'd have to put showers in them as well, so you'd be tapping into the existing plumbing, which in my mind might bring up the topic of codes and all the rest of it and the facility to handle that additional. Maybe there's a washroom in there too. I've never been in those dressing rooms to speak up. So if you're gonna tap into the plumbing to get rid of the waste, are we gonna open up a can of worms as far as codes and all the rest of it with the current washroom situation?
Well, with back when in 2010, when the original dressing rooms were, when this was first completed, all dressing rooms from the existing girls' change room all the way back to dressing room 4, that was all redone. The floors were all taken out, drains were all redone, and they all drain to the back of the building, go out, and then go out to the street after that. The current washrooms and our office area used to be a washroom years ago. It has its own drain and own water supply already. So there, I don't see the need to, it would have to be tied into the existing. But obviously like HVAC and all that stuff would have to be addressed, but.
So the two proposed new dressing rooms, could we just tapped into the existing 4 that's there now that
It,
you're thinking?
it's possible, yes.
Okay, all right.
Are you planning with showers in the new dressing rooms? Cause I know under the new regulations, they can't even
That-
shower in like.
And that's something I think we would rely on the architect to hopefully guide us. And this is one of the sticking points from the facilities standpoint. There are groups within minor hockey that they need extra dressing rooms. But on a daily basis, the 4 dressing rooms are the only 4 dressing rooms that we would be using outside of the cross ice minor hockey system, right? So from that standpoint, it would be maybe more feasible to somehow incorporate it as just a changing area. But we'd have to rely on the designers to try and steer us in the right direction when it comes to that.
Go ahead, Jim.
Are there any, just thinking in the future and what's happening in the environment, are there any issues as far as gender related situations? It's a sticky subject, I know. Dress rooms changing, cross changing, so on and so forth.
I believe, and maybe Terry can speak to this, minor hockey has implemented new rules where anybody in their organization must maintain a base layer at all times to kind of avoid the whole non-inclusive situation. So at any point when a kid is in the dressing room, they are required to have a base layer on. And if they require to change, that's what the stall is supposed to be used for in the change room. So that's minor hockey's new, if Terry, if you can speak to that.
Yeah, it's exactly like Adam said. There's been one revision to the plan that came out a couple weeks ago, but it's all kind of still trial and error with this group by the sounds of it. But yeah, everyone is required to maintain a base layer for top and bottom. And as for the extra change room, being as if there's 6 here on the design plan, we could always delegate one as the all-in change room, I guess you could say. So you'd have like 1 and 4 for a game, and then say 6 is the one for the what do you call it?
Yeah, it would
Unisex
take,
change room.
yeah, it would take place of the current unisex change room, so.
Yeah, you can just delegate it.
Maybe the committee should have a little discussion now on the feeling of removal of the canteen. I mean, personally, I'd hate to see it go in a way, but it hasn't been used for 6 years and or better, and even when it does, it doesn't generate much money for us, so I mean, I guess I certainly can live with it going, but I would like to get comments from the rest of the board members on that.
Sure, I can comment on that if you like, through the chair. To your point, Mr. Chair, and in addition to that, we do have a Tim Hortons in West Lorne now. And I would expect that because of that, many people go to Tim Hortons to get their coffee and their snacks before they come to the arena. So I think that we have to consider that. And we also have to consider the fact that there are small businesses in West Elgin and Dutton Dunwich. And I think it would be great to be able to provide them with the opportunity to do the business as opposed to having the canteen if that space can be better used, which is being illustrated here in number 4, I think it is, which so at this point, I don't think there'd be any better time to consider removing the canteen than a time in which it hasn't been used in 6 years.
Jim, go ahead.
Mr. Chair, I have to ditto what Councillor Bill just mentioned. 6 years sitting there doing nothing and not generating a penny. Maybe not a lot of expense putting into it, but to maintain anything, it's just kind of there. So I kind of agree with what Councillor Bill Denning just mentioned.
Ryan, did you have a comment on that?
Yeah, hello, everybody. I would agree. I think that that area would be better used to increase the size of the warm room. I agree with the Tim Hortons. Everybody's gonna grab coffees, donuts, snacks on their way to the arena at the Tim Hortons. It's right on Grand Road. So I don't really see a reason to, especially if it hasn't been used in 6 years. I think that says it all. 6 years is a long time to have a bunch of space there that's not being utilized. It'd be one thing if we had, an operator that was there, providing, burgers, fries, whatever during games. I just don't see that happening. So no, I'm in agreement.
Harry, I'll let you go last here.
Yeah, like it hasn't been used, right? And for it to get used again, it probably is going to take a lot of upgrade work or cleaning or some sort of additional funding to get it back up to code. I know when we run our tournaments, which is when it would probably see most of its traffic, we just get the outside Optimus Club to bring their trailer up to the door and just run it through the door at the back, which it works well. And you know what? If you open that area up, they can put a table there and do the exact same thing. So really, there's no real benefit to have the canteen there. It's sad to see it go, but it's just a reality of it.
Well, I think we're all kind of unanimous on that, and so that helps the committee, I think, decide a little bit where they want to go. Of course, it is West Elgin's building and they'll have to make that final decision probably, but I think we're all of the same opinion. Sorry to see it go, but maybe it's time. Okay.
Yeah, and just in the last few months, the garbage has increased probably 2 times, and it's a lot of Tim Hortons cups and whatnot. So yes, it's obvious that the users are stopping ahead of time, and I believe that would continue.
So based on that, a bit of information, Adam, maybe the canteen should be used for dumpsters.
Well, we've spent some time going over the proposals. I really appreciate the work that's been done. I don't know if anyone else has any comment, and maybe I'll ask Lee if from the committee's standpoint, is there anything else you think we should be discussing here before we pass it back to you to?
Well, through the chair, I think it would be good now for the committee to meet again, and review everything from yesterday's meeting with the engineer to our discussions here as a board today. And, you know, then we can, I think that's gonna give us the ability to narrow things down a little bit more. And then, like I said, we'll bring a report to the next, meeting in March. And at that time, I think that, you know, in order to move forward with this, this is gonna be the point where we're gonna have to start getting, you know, architects, engineers, some firm involved. So I think it would be wise to put out an RFP and see what kind of interest there is to get somebody to do that work. And certainly, you know, as far as all the things that we discussed today about accessibility and emergency entrances and all that stuff, all those questions will be answered through that process. And then that will give us, once that's done, that will give us the ability to actually put an estimated cost against it and see where we are. And then I think it's important to have that work done if we're going to look for down the road, if we're going to look for grants. If we have an actual plan and we have an estimated cost and we have all those things in place, it's very easy to apply for those grants. But if you know, if you make those applications for anybody that's done those grants in the past and you just say, well, this is what I want to do and we think it's going to cost X. A lot of times they don't look on them as favorably as the ones that really have their I's dotted and their T's crossed. So certainly that will be you know, there'll be a cost associated with starting into that process, but there is that money available in, you know, that's what that money is for. So I think if we'll get that, we'll bring that forward to the next meeting and then we'll go from there.
Go ahead, Jim.
Lee, when is your next committee meeting date?
We don't have one set as of right now, Jim. So
When you get that set, could you give me the date sometime?
yep.
We have had a member of the skating club reach out to us
Okay,
to be included into that committee.
yeah, I was aware of that, but I just want to kind of follow up and I may show up and just offend everybody.
Well, it's certainly interesting, and I really appreciate the committee and also the forward thoughts that are put into this. It's and I agree 100% with what Lee said. If you're shovel ready, it's a lot easier to get grants, and it won't be cheap. As I remember when I started in this business way too long ago, I asked the engineer what it was going to cost for a project, and he made a comment back to me that always stuck with me. He said, boy, she's going to be expensive, but that's only a rough estimate. So, I always remember that. So, anyways, okay, I think we've spent enough time on that. Staff operational update. I think we've kind of half covered that as well. So, but go ahead.
Yeah, nothing new. Everything seems to be running just fine, and we've got about a month and a half to go. We have plans of now going with Terry and Jim's schedules. Our last scheduled ice time is, I believe, March 28th, which is the Thursday prior to the Easter weekend. Now there's possibility that minor hockey needs practice time following that weekend, but I fully expect to have that weekend and give staff that weekend off and possibly keep the ice till the Thursday following that weekend will be removed. That's the current plan.
Anything else? And I guess if not, adjournment. So I'll need a mover
have
and a
one.
second. Go ahead, Bill. Sorry.
I
You're in
apologize.
small pictures, so I can't see you very well there.
Sorry, I should have
Well-
brought this up during business arising from minutes with regards to the renaming discussion of the arena. I have heard back from the Horvat family. And Bo would be available for a ceremony on August 24th, which is a Saturday. So a couple different thoughts that I'll just put out there. First of all, that might work for all of us. But is there any value in our committee and our board considering perhaps postponing the renaming ceremony a year to coincide a little closer with these renovations? I'm open to discussion on that, but I just thought I'd put that out there.
I mean, from this board, I don't think it matters that much. We've just kind of been drawn out longer than it should have with COVID anyways, but I don't think it would matter that much to me personally. But I'll leave it up to the rest of the board to make any comments.
I would think that would be an excellent idea if they're in favor. One shot deal, done with, new renovations. Rename.
Through the chair, I think if we're looking at, if we're looking at trying to have the ceremony once the renovations are completed, I think that a year is very optimistic. To be quite honest, I don't even the renovations obviously are going to have to be done through the summertime. So even postponing till the summer of 2025, I think you could, if we were able to get this organized and get this actually under construction in 25, I think you'd end up having a renaming ceremony right in the middle of construction. So if the idea is to showcase the renovations along with the renaming ceremony, realistically, I think you're looking at 2026 at the very earliest.
I guess question for Jen, we've been in contact with we had rented some stuff from the Hall of Fame and stuff coming down. That's been kind of booked already?
It's
Up there, I don't think it'd be- So, I don't know, any other board members have any comments on that?
Just, if I may, just that Lee's got a great point, and if we don't want to delay it and we're satisfied having the renaming ceremony before the renovations are done, I'm open to that, and perhaps we can use it as an opportunity to raise some funds and some awareness about the renovations this summer.
I think, sorry, through the chair, just to add to Councillor Denning's last note there, I think that it's certainly feasible if we get, if we get on this at the next meeting and go out, secure an architect and an engineer to put this together and get a final design, certainly at a renaming event this summer, we could have billboard style pictures of what, of what it's going to look like when it's done. The actual construction won't be done, but we can certainly kind of showcase the plans at an event like that. So.
Is that good, Bill? To answer your question, I think.
Sounds great.
Okay, anything else then before we adjourn? If not, I need a mover and a seconder. Jim,
I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Councilor Denning, okay, all in favor? Carried.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks, guys.